Good morning, Tejas sir. Sir, mute. Unmute.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So shall we start?
Yeah.
It's 9:30.
Sure. Do share the recording with me later.
Yes, sir. Okay. A warm good morning to all present here. I welcome all of you on RUSA sponsor industry interaction webinar on web hosting. What is web hosting? When a hosting providers allocate space on a web server for a website to store its files, they are hosting a website. Web hosting makes the files that comprise the website with code images are available for viewing online. Every website you have ever visited is hosted on a server. Today, we will see in detail about hosting, procedure, requirement, and important aspects in web hosting. To focus light on this, we have our eminent speaker. It is indeed my proud privilege to introduce our speaker for this morning, Mr. Tejas Hoskatti. He is serving as a chief officer at Taiijas Infotech Private Limited from July 2010, chief operating officer at Skill Up Venture Private Limited from September 2020 till date. Mr. Hoskatti worked as a tech consultant for Google, Facebook, Flipkart, Ola, Swiggy, Book My Show, Myntra, Lal Bagh Raja, to name a few. This list is endless. Sir is lifetime member of Higher Education Forum, lifetime member of Maharashtra Chamber of Commerce, lifetime member of Young Environmentalist of India, an NGO, Director of Administration for Giant Internationals Provide Metro Group, an NGO involved in social service. Another important highlight is that Sir has a 14+ year of experience in design and development of an IT product and services. We are indeed delighted that you take time to be part of our webinar on industry interaction. Ladies and gentlemen and dear students, I present before you Mr. Tejas Hoskatti. Participants are requested to keep your mic and camera off. You can ask question to speaker by typing on chat box. Over to you, sir.
Sure. A very warm good morning to one and all. One second, let me just share the screen. So today we're going to be discussing web hosting in detail. And before we move into what web hosting is, I would like to focus more about what internet is and how internet works. Because without understanding the basics of how that architecture is, we can't dwell into the hosting part blindly. So the first thing that you need to know about internet hosting, or basically the part, is that what is internet and why is it so important? Now, in the academics, everywhere you'll see this kind of a diagram wherein you're going to be told that you can connect your computer, you can connect multiple computers to a local area network, and then that local area network then goes to a regional and world ISP, and you will see all the different topologies of networks that are around. But what exactly is internet? One of the things that we are never knowing is that internet is physical. And how much of it is physical is that if you ask someone, they'll tell you that maybe we are getting the internet from the satellites, we are getting the internet from the airways and things like that. But it's actually by using a network of undersea cables. We have this fiber optic and T1 lines and very high-speed network lines that are being laid out for the last 30-40 years. The whole purpose of these cables being laid out is that over a period of time, the internet becomes free as much as possible, but still it costs. So why do we have to pay for internet today? Is because of this cost of laying down these undersea cables. And there's a huge and vast network of these undersea cables that are there. Just to give you one example, we at Bombay are getting our internet or our internet access to the US and to the other areas using this physical line, which you can see, which goes through the Gulf area. And this is then going to the Europe, and from Europe, it then gets connected through the transatlantic and to. Okay, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So the other part is that how is this physical line going through? You would actually see an undersea cable being laid out. And this is one of the biggest thing that is being done over the last 30, 40 years. And this is what is making the higher amount of cables that we have, the high speed internet connectivity comes through. So you have one cable line like that going towards Europe. And from Europe, you have it connected to US. And on the other side, through Japan, again, there's one more line which goes towards the west coast of America. So they're all interconnected, and this network of wired cables is what is enabling us to interact with each other computers. Now, coming to that, interacting with computers is it's not that easy. It's like how we hold an conference around or any place. You need to have one person who is a coordinator or one person who's in charge of what goes in, what goes out, and how many people are allowed inside a room. Otherwise, there's going to be chaos. And internet in its whole purpose is chaotic. So we created certain protocols which allow us to interact with each other. For example, we have created languages so we can understand each other. We have created word association with certain things which allow us to understand what an apple is. So we create the apple is a word that we have given it, and it is called as full. It can be called as different names. You can keep on doing that based upon which language the other person understands. So to clear out those kind of problems arising up, the protocols were created, and protocols purpose is very simple. Everybody will speak the very same language whenever they are on internet. So when we are talking about everybody, we mean the machines that are being connected to the internet. So these protocols are very important, and you must have learned in your academics, which is FTP, HTTP, HTTPS, and SMTP. So FTP means file transfer protocol. It allows me to transfer files to and from the server. Then we have HTTP, which allows me to do the hypertext transfer protocol. Remember, what is the meaning of hypertext transfer protocol? It means that what we get from a website is, let's say I've opened up this website. So this is not the website that is being delivered with the images and all. Actually, what comes out is if I do view source, this is what is being sent by the server to me. And this is what is known as hypertext transfer protocol. And in this, what the browser does is it understands that, yes, this is the title that I have. And this title needs to go up in the browser. So you see this domain names, website hosting, and all that. That is coming because of this title which is mentioned. You must have, whenever you've studied HTML, you would always find that after head comes the title. And the reason why is this is the first thing that the browser reads. What is this page about? Then you have other things which are going to be associated, file associations with it, how it wants the page to look, style in 2D, 3D, all that. And that information enables us to create a page which looks like this. But in true format, what is being sent by the server is this kind of a format. It's basically a text-based output. And this text-based is called as hypertext because these text part are then decoded by the browser, and what you see in the end is different output altogether. So that's your HTTP. And what HTTPS stands for is a secure connection. And secure connection is basically a key file being shared. So it's like a key being used, which allows you to open up and close that file. Nobody else can open it up anywhere. So there's one key which would be there in the browser, and another key which would be there on the server, and that allows us to interact in a very secure manner. So today, all the WhatsApp conversations also have a secure key inside them. So the user and the sender can only open up the file, and they'll only be able to access what is there inside. In between, nobody else can. Then you have got SMTP. So SMTP is another important protocol that we need to remember. Apart from this, there are many other protocols. Remember this. But we are only going to be focusing about these four whenever we are talking about web hosting or uh, creating a website and all, because SMTP helps us to create email IDs. So we'll be looking into all this in detail as we go ahead. So coming to one more important part, which you must have studied also, is IP address. So these IP address are basically termed as IP4. And what these are is basically an octet of 4 numbers. And in that, you have a sequence of numbers like this, which is basically unique to one computer everywhere. But as the number of computers and the devices increased over the years, so initially there were only few computers that were there. In 1991, you could actually have all the computers and all the websites listed out on one single page. So that's the pages that were there around. But over the years, we have seen that the number of devices have increased, and every year, or in fact, every month, the number of mobile phones, the number of IoT devices. Today, we also have cars being created which have internet ability in them. And each of these devices are adding up numbers. Hence, we had to create what we call it as IP version 6, which is even longer. So just to give you how to see your own IP address, you can let me just screen share that. So how to see the IP address? You have the internet connection. So on the internet connection, you can go into properties. And this properties allows you to see what is the IP address of my computer and what is the IP6 address also. I can go into depth and you can see the link of local IP address 6. And this is very unique. This is unique connection to the internet today. And today IP address 4 is generally what we get connected and what we are getting from the um, router. Remember this. Today, whatever is your main router, that gives you the IP address through which we are connecting. So every time I connect to a new router or I connect to a new internet connection, my IP address will keep on changing. Now, this is very important. I'll come back to why IP address keeps on changing and what we need to do for them and why do we need hosting, because that's the main reason why we need hosting, because every time something gets connected to internet, the IP address changes. So we created something known as domain names, which keeps helps us to remember which website to connect to. So these domain names can be purchased from basically, it's like a registry. So imagine it as if being like your contact book. Like in the phones, we have contact book, we have phone numbers, but it's very difficult to remember every person's phone number. So what we do is we assign names to them. So domain names are very unique. They are sold from different websites, such as GoDaddy is one of the biggest one, which does it and most trusted. Apart from that, you can purchase them from HostGator, Bluehost, and many other like this. So for this purpose, what you need to do is you just need to go to GoDaddy and any of the domains that you want to do, you can search for them. Like for example, if I want something like Q Home Loan as a domain name, I can search for it and it will tell me which type of domain names or addresses are available. So it's telling me right now .com is available, but this is a very premium one. Hence, it's showing me a very high price. But then I can get a .in for as less as 149 rupees. And remember, this is not the actual price, 149. The actual price is 600 rupees. So what they do is they give you a discount if you're purchasing for 2 years, 3 years. The more number of years you purchase it for, the cheaper that domain name is going to be for you. So we purchase the domain name. And what this domain name gives us is the ability to have an unique name on the web. So whenever someone is typing in a particular website, it will go to a particular domain name. So that domain name is owned by me. Then comes into picture what we call it as domain name servers. And these domain name servers are what is helping map the domain name to an IP address. So one of the best tools that I use to see which domain name is going where is a tool known as leafdns.com. So over here, if you put any of the domain names, for example, I'm putting my own Tejas.com, it will tell you how the domain name is being read. So domain name would have a domain name server, and that domain name server is my hosting, where I have hosted this. And that hosting server then provides me an IP address. And that IP address is where finally the website is landing upon. Next, we look at why and what is the reason for this internet coming into existence in the very first place. Is during the Cold War, the then President Eisenhower, he started a research institute known as Advanced Research Projects Agency. And the whole idea of this agency was to create a covert way or a very secret spy way of communicating from one place to another. Because you had already during that time you had wireless communication which was possible, so you could do it over radio waves. You had Morse code, you had many other codes like that created, but they could always be decoded. How can we make it much more secure that it could be a physical line? So that was the whole idea behind it. And believe it or not, the whole work of starting packet transfer, or the IP packets, which we call it as internet packets, but all started around 1973. And it took them 3 years to just connect two networks together. So today, what we complain about to our internet guy, or the person कि अभी तक केबल क्यों टूट गया, अभी केबल नेट नहीं आ रहा है, घर पे नेट नहीं आ रहा है, लगा के जाओ, नया कनेक्शन लगा के जाओ. He does that within one day, and we get the internet connection. Imagine waiting for 3 years to get just two computers connected. But that was the era initially. But that's how internet got started. So when we talk about web development, there are three main parts, which are basically the moving parts. One is your web browser. Then comes your web page. And then the third one is web server. So web browser is what we use generally, like Chrome, Safari, depends upon which operating system you're using. You would get that, or you would have the uh, Internet Explorer also basically installed into Windows. But that is not in our hand. But the other two parts are. So we can make a choice of what is going to be the web page and what is going to be the web server. So whenever you create a simple web page, like the example that I'd shown you was a very complex one, but a simple web page has this particular following parts moving around, which you have studied in your academics, or you will study if you're in first year and all being introduced. So HTML is the basic language which all the websites they follow, because whenever, no matter what is the language in which the web server or the web is being programmed in, it could be Python, it could be PHP, it could be ASP, it could be JSP, but the final pixels that hit the browser are always going to be HTML. And HTML is then converted, and then you have other allied parts, like you have image files, you can have CSS, you can have JavaScript files. These are all secondary files that are attached to it. But the main primary file is always going to be HTML, which it reads and understands. The browser understands. And then this browser has these particular things. First one is what we call it as a local URL. If you have opened it up in your browser, a local HTML file which you have created, it will give you in the address bar as a local address. Then you have these two parts which are coming from the web page, which are parts of the HTML. Like I showed you that the title is what is giving the title on the top of the page. And then you have the main context of the page, which is all coming from the body section of the HTML. So now here comes a very complex part, and this is going to be a little bit difficult to understand also, maybe, could be. But anytime you can raise your hand and type me in if you have any questions about this. But this is going to be a little lengthy process in understanding what the web architecture is, so we understand exactly how the modern web works. So in modern web, what we have is a person who's sitting on a computer. He could be sitting on a tablet. He could be sitting on a mobile phone, and he's interacting. So in this assumption, I'm taking a desktop, which could be a PC or a Mac. And on this, you would have a browser, which enables you to connect. So we go and we would probably go to the browser, which could be Chrome or Safari. And it can also be a mobile browser, which every mobile has its own browser. Samsung has its own browser also. It could be that also. Then the next part, what we have is these browsers should be capable of doing DHTML and XHTML. Now, I know that this seems a little prehistoric, but this is how HTML evolved. Initially, HTMLs were without the JavaScript and CSS files. But as HTML versions evolved, HTML2 came out, 3, 4, and today we have HTML5. So HTML5 brings in the capability of attaching a lot of files, which can be 3D files also, graphic files, and video files, and all those things are basically along with the parcel of HTML. But that capability should be there inside the browser. If it's not, then those particular files will not function the right way. And the interaction with this browser is no longer just in text-based format, but we also have voice capability. Today, we can do a voice search. It could be Siri-based, it could be Alexa, it could be Google as well. And it can also have touch. So there can be touch interactions, which we are doing along the browser. So it should be capable of doing all that. And vision could be one of the ways in which the thing is coming back to you, or if you're using something like an Echo, Alexa, and all that, then the results are going to come back to you in the voice format only. But vision is what we are using on a desktop kind of interface and all. So then comes the HTTP request. What goes from the browser to the server is a request. So imagine this part of the section or the browser being like a restaurant table. So you have gone to a hotel and you're sitting there, and the table is there, and then whatever is there on the menu is what is your web page, and that is in HTML format. So the web page is there in front of you, and you're going to see what is available, and I can pick and choose and all that. But when the HTTP request goes to the server can be of two types. There's an Apache server and an IIS server. So Apache is basically a Linux or an open source server, and IIS is a Windows-based server. And these have capability of running live or basically pre-installed library files on them, which allow certain scripting to be possible. This is known as website scripting, or you can call it server scripting. So in my example, I'm taking as PHP as an example. It can also be ASP. It can also be JSP. It can be ASP.NET. Any of these languages it can be, which are server-side scripting languages. Remember that. And these are going to be giving me the response. So this is the HTTP response which comes back, and it's in the way of HTML in this case. So let me show you how the response part can be seen. You can do it on any website. So let's say I'm going to google.com, and the google.com page has opened up. This is what we generally do to check internet. But you can click on inspect, and under inspect, if you're using Chrome, you'll see something known as network. And this network allows you to see how the server response is happening through, and how does it happen, where it is coming from. So let's say I click again now on google.com, and you can see all the pages that are refreshing and are coming on this page. And you can see something known as status. So there are these statuses which are there, which basically tell you what is the response of the server for this particular page, which is being served to you. So these logos, these image pages which are coming through, they all have 200. So it means it exists there. Then you have got, you also have other responses which are there, web responses. And the general one which we all are familiar with is 404, which is basically page not found error. So coming back to where we were. So we have the HTML response, which you can see using the network part also. And this is the response which is coming. And remember, no matter what is the scripting language you're using, you may be using Python or anything, the response that comes from the web server is always going to be HTTP based, and it's always going to be hypertext mixture of it. It can also be XML, it can be any different format, but those things come out later, how we pass the data out of it. Then coming to data. So data is what we call it as a database server. Even though my web server and database server may be on the same machine, we always have to consider them as different. They cannot talk to each other directly, at least. So on the database server, I would have my own database. And this database interactions is possible only in SQL, and the response is always going to be in tables and or an array format. So this is how an entire web architecture is working today, when you have database which is storing maybe your login, password, all those details, email addresses, and then it will check whether you are existing or not, and then serving you pages as it goes ahead. But today we also have OTPs which are possible. So you get OTPs from this web server. So today we also have SMS system involved in more or less everything, every kind of login that we are doing, whether it be Facebook, whether it is Google. Whenever we log in, we have an SMS system, or even Paytm, Google Pay. All these are working on SMS systems. So there is another part which can be inserted into your web server. It's known as client application. These are outsourced or basically something which is completely different as a service that is being provided to you. So you can make use of this SMS gateways and things like that and use them. Similarly, if you want to use a web server with YouTube capabilities or video capabilities, then you would be having a remote web service, which we call it as web services outsourced. So this is the complete architecture, which is very important to understand. And once we understand it, then we can go into the details about what is web hosting now. So web hosting part is the third part which is coming over here, and that deals with this entire right section, which is there, which is your web server and your database server. These are the only two things that you need to decide upon, what type of hosting you're going to be going to. So just to summarize whatever we have understood till now, I would like to share a video with you, which is there.
So sound is not clear.
Yeah.
Sound is not clear.
Sound is not clear. Okay. Is the audio coming through or not coming through at all?
It's not coming.
So not.
Let me check again.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What is the internet?
The internet is like a popular thing.
Some satellites up there.
I picture in my head with like waves of internet going to the phone.
Somebody told me a cloud once.
The internet is a lot like plumbing. It's always moving.
Most people don't have any idea where the internet came from, and it doesn't matter. They don't need to. It's sort of like asking who invented the ballpoint pen or the flush toilet or, the zipper. These are all things that we just use every day, and we don't even think about the fact that one day somebody invented them. So the internet is just like that. Many, many years ago, in the early 1970s, my partner Bob Kahn and I began working on the design of what we now call the internet. It was a result of another experiment called the ARPANET, which stood for Advanced Research Projects Agency Network. It was a Defense Department research project. Paul Barron was trying to figure out how to build a communication system that might actually survive a nuclear attack. So he had this idea of breaking messages up into blocks and sending them as fast as possible in every possible direction through the mesh network. So we built what eventually became a nationwide experimental packet network, and it worked. Is anybody in charge of the internet?
The government controls it.
Elves, obviously elves.
The people who control the Wi-Fi, because then no Wi-Fi, no internet. T-Mobile, Xfinity.
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates.
Right?
The honest answer is, well, nobody, and maybe another answer is everybody. The real answer is that the internet is made up of an incredibly large number of independently operated networks. What's interesting about the system is that it's fully distributed. There's no central control that's deciding how packets are routed or where pieces of network are built or even who interconnects with whom. These are all business decisions that are made independently by the operators. They are all motivated to assure that there is end-to-end connectivity of every part of the network, because the utility of the net is that any device can communicate with any other device, just like you want to be able to make phone calls to any other telephone in the world. There's nothing like this that has ever been built before. The idea that what you know might be useful to somebody else, or vice versa, is a very powerful motivator for sharing information. By the way, that's how science gets done. People share information. So this is an opportunity for people to think up new applications, maybe program them as apps on a mobile phone, maybe become part of the continued growth of the infrastructure of the network to bring it to people that don't have access to it yet, or just make use of it on a day-to-day basis. You can't escape from contact with the internet, so why not get to know it and use it?
So with that basic understanding of what web is and how complex yet simple it is to get connected and use it in our day-to-day life, I have an experience of creating my very first website maybe 20 years back during 2000. So it was using those free web servers, websites that you could do, and you could create your own websites on them. And that's how my journey started. And till date, I have built maybe more than 2,000, 3,000 websites. And my web servers or the work that I have done have served more than 100 million people till date also. And it's a journey. It's been a very big journey that I've had. And I've been able to work on cloud servers. I have experience of working with different languages on servers. And I'm coming from that experience whenever I'm talking about what is web hosting and how critical a role it plays. So there are these three main importance things that we need to understand is when we are buying a web hosting or web server. So we need a domain name. Without a domain name, you cannot have a presence on the internet. So that is point number one. Point number two is that domain name would then be pointing towards a DNS server. So DNS servers should know which particular web hosting you're using. So in my personal experience, I always purchase my domains from GoDaddy. And inside GoDaddy, you have the ability to control the DNS servers which are attached to it. So I'll be giving you an example of my own account. So after you purchase a domain name, you will be getting your own domains over here, and you can see all the domains that I own or I have with me. And these domains can then be routed through using a DNS part of it. So let's say there is this Xperi World. This is a new website which we are coming out with. So inside this, you'll see that there is something known as DNS. So you can see manage DNS. So this managed DNS can be altered. It tells the whole internet where is this website being hosted. So currently, I always prefer HostGator for the last 10 years. You're free to choose. Over the last 1 year, I have been moving my most of my clients to Bluehost also. So Bluehost is another example. So these are all paid examples that I'm giving you. You can go for free ones also, but they'll not provide you all the best which are there. So Bluehost is another one which gives you very good secure service and all. So I'll be going in depth about what and how to choose a hosting provider also. But in this case, in this example that we are doing, Xperi World is being hosted on the domain name, which is the domain name server, which is on HostGator. And this HostGator then has to catch it. So what I do is I purchase an account on HostGator, and on HostGator, I have added them into my add-on domains. And in this add-on domain, I have, so this is the Xperi World, you can see that. And in this add-on domain or this particular server that I've told it to go to this particular folder. So whatever files, HTML files, all those things are there will be available whenever someone is typing in Xperi World in their browser. So that is the web host part which comes into picture. So GoDaddy, I have to purchase the domain name, then domain name, I'll have to attach it to a DNS server, and then it goes to the web host. Now, whenever you purchase a web host, you will get that in your package details. What is the DNS server for your particular package and all. And if you can observe over here on the right hand side, which I have highlighted, you can see the primary domain name is there. So this is the domain name with which I have purchased this hosting. And then the host names are over here, the name servers. So these name servers are what is given to me by the HostGator. It can change. If you do Bluehost, it would be different. If you're doing on Amazon, it will be different. I'll be showing you on Amazon also as we move in experiments how cloud services they work also. And this is the server for the site. Any of the websites which are being hosted are going to be on this dedicated IP address. Because if you don't have a moving IP, if you don't have a static IP address, it's always going to be moving around. Your website will not be served properly. So we need a constant place from where things are going to be delivered to the user. So why do we need hosting part of it? And I could do it for free. So for example, if I want to create my own web site today, I don't need to do a website. I need a web presence. So if I need a web presence for free, Google allows me to do that using Google Business. Very sure if that is there, but you can see all the things that I need to show are already being listed onto the search page. I can show images there. I can sell products on Google. So that's a link that I have. I can share photos onto Google, so I can do that. They will be visible. Reviews can be there. Then apart from that, I can also write blog posts which are there. I can start doing that on Google, and so it can show up as a mini blog site also for free. I'm using Google for this purpose. So you can do that using business for Google. Business. My business. So here's an example of how you can create your own free service or free server website, which could be there on the web and can always be visible to people. So if I go into edit website here. So this is a free website which Google has created for me. And if you want to see how this is, view site, it can be searched by using tejas.business.site. And you will come to this landing page, which has all the things which are there. And this is for free. This is being done by Google. And this is picking up all the relevant things which Google is finding from the Google Maps. It is finding from different areas wherein I've put in some information, and it is also allowing me to edit them. And you can see that there's a call now button. Somebody can directly call me, get directions. They can get directions on their mobile phones, make an appointment. They can go and make an appointment to reach out to me. And you can see gallery, testimonials, contacts, like how we see typical website. It's all being made over here. So I can edit it. I can create different themes. So let's say I don't like this color. I can go to a different color scheme altogether and just click it and go to the front page and refresh. One second, there should be a save button somewhere. Okay, yeah, there's a tick mark. So now it's saved. Let's see if those changes have happened. Now you can see the color has changed. The font has changed. So it's immediate. So this is what we call it as a UI based change, which we can do. There's no coding, there's no HTML involvement in it, but you can do this kind of web presence for free. You don't need to put money into it, and Google will automatically start listing it everywhere and all. So you should use My Business as one of the most important tools for doing free work kind of thing. So we can do it. But then why do we need it to be hosted? What are the capabilities? So it doesn't allow me to create a user ID, a login kind of performance. Or let's say I want to create an online classroom environment. It doesn't allow me to do that. So for that, I need to go for hosting providers. So there are many types of hosting providers. So one of the major reasons why I do it is because it provides us better online presence. It can give us more traffic handling. The number of pages that can be handled is different on different types of servers. And then more number of conversions. That is more number of students coming into my website, or it could be more number of products being sold if I have more number of people that the web server can handle. Remember, any of these websites, they have got these trade-offs, which we do whenever we go for packages. What I mean by that is if you go to HostGator, you can see shared hosting packages over here. So they'll show you one plan over here, and this is .com. You can also go to .in, which will show you the Indian pricing part of it. So here's the shared hosting, WordPress hosting, cloud hosting, then VPS hosting, and the prices keep on varying around. So I can get a shared hosting for as less as 100 rupees, but if I go for a VPS hosting, it's going to cost me close to 1,200 rupees a month. So that's a huge amount of price difference. What happens within this price difference? Let me explain that to you. So when we have to decide upon which is the best business plan, or which is the best plan that I can choose for hosting, these are the 5 main important things that I need to think about, or the 5 main options that we have. First is the shared hosting. The second one is VPS hosting, virtual private server, which is the full form for it. Then dedicated hosting is the third type, cloud hosting, and then there is a reseller hosting, which allows you to sell your own hosting to someone else. We'll have a look at each one of them one by one. So first one is a shared hosting, which is generally what we'll always go for, because it starts from as less as 100 rupees a month. So this is how the shared hosting is. So it's just one single server. It has multiple websites on it, and then it shares it around. And so resources are being shared, and hence the price is less. So the current web server that I have is a shared hosting. This one is a shared hosting. So when I go to server information, it will tell me what is the server capability of this. So right now, this server has got 16 CPUs, and these are the number of hard disks that are attached to it. This is disk 1, disk 2, disk 3, disk 4, and then there are backup for each of these disks as well, and a backup for the backup disk also, because there's always a chance that there can be breakup, there can be server crashes, there can be hacker attacks and things like that. So we need to look into that. And then there's a server load. So server load is currently very low, but as the traffic increases, the server load also keeps on going up. But in a shared web hosting, the cost is very low. Performance is also good because as long as you're not doing any high performance work, it's going to be good and for the basic job. But whenever you need any of the server control parts, it could be there, some part available to you or not. But security is very low. The amount of security concern is like in a shared hosting. If a virus is being attacked to, let's say, the second computer or the second website which is there, it can spread on the server entirely. So all the web servers could be hacked or viruses could be there. What do we mean by that? Is let's say I'm typing in one particular website and I'm being taken to some completely different spam website, which could be related to gambling, which could be related to porn sites, and different things can come up over there. So people generally do that. They attack the websites because that allows them to get free traffic and get malicious attacks and all. So we have to take that into consideration. Shared hosting, your security is going to be low. You are in charge of your own security. So what do we mean by security? That take regular backups, take weekly or monthly backups of the database or everything. So anytime, any given point, there is damage on the server which has happened, you can move to another server or you can restore it back to the way it was. And these are typically what we'll see, that few hundreds websites, maybe even 1,000 websites are there on one single server. Now comes to second part, which is dedicated hosting. So dedicated hosting is another part, but it's very expensive. But here you can actually purchase the admin rights to the Windows or the Linux server, would give you the root access to it. But it's not that I own the server, but I have the access to the entire server. So I can customize it to my own needs. I can create a different user and start using that. I can create different folders for security purpose. I can enhance the performance and all that and control it entirely. So that's a dedicated hosting, which we call it as. So the dedicated panel is there for you and you can do control over it. So performance is very high, but the cost also goes up very much. It's like what I showed you. If it's over here just as less as 100 rupees a month, it can be 1,200 rupees a month also. For dedicated hosting, it can be around that range. Security is higher. Number of skill or the level of skill that you need to work on this server is going to be very high, because you'll need to think about how files are there, how they will react, or you have to add a new domain. It's another task. And if you want to go for an HTTPS kind of a service pack, then it again adds in more difficulties and challenges. And then we have the third part, which is the VPS hosting, which is virtual private server. So in this, what we have is one single server, which is going to be serving to and allows you to create multiple users who then can have their own cPanels and start using them. So over here, the cost is also high, similar to what dedicated hosting is, but this is allowing you to create multiple backups. So it's a hosting plan wherein the server is divided into multiple virtual units. These are not actual units, but the same unit is divided into virtual units, and each unit then acts as a dedicated server that the host can, and you will host only one website on one single unit that you have. So what this allows is a very high level of security. So whatever happens on one particular website absolutely never affects the other website, because that IP address is going to be different. That web server's whole identity is different altogether. Then we come to the most popular one that we have been hearing around for the last 10 years, is the cloud hosting. So cloud hosting is a very simple concept is that instead of having just one dedicated server at one place, I have multiple servers spread across the globe, and any one of them could be serving me the website from anywhere. And this is the new type of hosting that allows customers powerful capability of scaling, also reliable hosting, and it's cluster based. So there is load balancing, which you can do, utilities such as billing. It's a billing cycle, depends upon how many people are using it today. You have to pay it that much. And these have become much more flexible things. So whenever you see any startups, they generally go for an uh, cloud service. So in cloud service example, I'm going to be sharing with you is AWS server. So let me first sign into my console. So this is how the AWS management console looks like. And inside that, they have got a plethora of services which they provide, which also includes blockchain, IoTs, robotics enabled things. Remember all your the over the air video services, that is your Amazon Prime, your Netflix, your Hotstar, all of them are hosted on Amazon servers, and they are responsible for providing video. So you have media server, you have live events which can be also done on them, and they are one of the best which are there around. So those services are also there, which you can plug and play whenever you want. But whenever we talk about a web server, it's basically like a light sail kind of a service which I can use. So light sail allows you to create and manage virtual private servers and host WordPress on them. So that's one of the typical things that we use for creating websites today. Almost 80% of the websites that you come across are going to be have or are going to be using WordPress as a uh, tool, or basically a content management system. So what AWS provides me is a entire cost explorer part. So just to give you an example, I'll be showing you how the monthly cost is, what it's going to be cost me at the end of the month, how the October month has been for me, how November is being predicted. Then I can go into monthly costs. Yeah. So since this particular server web or host that I have also has the Lal Bagh Raja, so usually during September is the peak time when people are visiting the website. So you can see that the peak was there, and it served. So CloudFront served so many people, and I can see how the billing is going to be varying each and every month. So this allows me flexibility to change my servers as and when I want. And let me show you that light sail example of how flexible it is to change the server. So every server is like a machine that you have purchased. So these are the two web servers. So let's say this is one web server that I'm taking. This is WordPress over here. So this particular machine, or the instance, virtual instance that I have, has got a 512 MB RAM, has got one CPU on it, and has roughly 20 GB SD card on it. And this is continuously, I need to look at networking part of it, how well the load balancing part is happening, how well the CPU is performing. So this is very low. It is in the you know very, very low. So I have got huge amount of traffic that I can still do it, but sustainable zone is also very less for this particular uh, server. But I can change this anytime I want. So I can duplicate this instant and create a new one. So right now this is of 20 GB one that is there existing. So it gives me a very flexible option to change this server to the way that I want. Let me go back to home and show you that. So I can change, connect, manage this particular thing, or I can completely create a new instance. And when I'm creating a new instance, it tells me what type of server do I need. Do I need a Microsoft server? Do I need a Linux server? Then what type of service or thing do I need to load on it? If I'm creating a WordPress multiple site, which is basically having different languages, I can go for it. I just need a PHP based, I can choose that server part. If I need Node.js, which is very popular nowadays, which people do for Node, for creating React.js based websites and all, you can do it on that. Magento is again an e-commerce part. So you can choose any one of them, or if you just want a basic cPanel based, you can also go for it. And let's say in this case, I'm choosing WordPress, which is what I've done before. Then comes the plan, which I need to choose. So it's based upon what type of server do I have. So this is a traffic, and it can handle minimalistic traffic wise. And I can go as much as high as 160 US dollars a month. which gives me a 32 GB 8 CPU based machine and has a very large CPU base and a transfer rate. So it can do 3.5 terabyte amount of data transfer. So data transfer is very important because you must have seen generally, like we all have seen, whenever there is huge amount of traffic on a website, the web server starts behaving very slow or starts not responding at all. Best example is the IRCTC website. Whenever you want to book a train, and when it opens up at 10 o'clock, it used to be blocked. And all the students, they also know how the Mumbai University websites or any of these result websites, they perform on the day of the result. They just never used to open up again before. So that is how the server capability is very important. How many data bytes it can give out. Once it reaches that threshold, it just stops working, or the machine becomes too hot and stops performing completely altogether. Then this is the last part of hosting, which is reseller hosting. So you can also become a reseller, like how I've shown you Bluehost, I've shown you HostGator. They're selling you hosting plans, or even AWS is selling you hosting plans. You can also create your own server and sell hosting plans for it. So this allows you to become a web host, and these resellers function can also be taken. You can take a reseller account and start selling it to your own clients and something else like that. Going. Now, what are the main factors that you need to be aware about on the while making the choice of what web hosting to go for? So first one is, what is the amount of disk space that is providing? So let's say I'm creating a website on which I'm going to be selling books. So I'll need a lot of amount of disk space because there are going to be a lot of amount of images and ebooks that I'll be storing on the site. So I'll need that to be there. And if I'm just creating a basic website, which is just going to serve to people, I'll be going for a basic plan. Then one of the most important thing, does it provide a 24/7 technical chat support? You must have seen many of the other hosting providers like Net4U. You must have seen Big Rock. That's another example, and very bad experiences I've had with them. Then there is Hosting Raja and all that. They say that they provide you 24/7 technical support, but it's generally an email that is sent out to them or a web ticket that is created, and the response comes back to you after 2-3 days or 4 days if there are vacations going around. For example, right now the staff is going to be less, considering the Diwali vacation has already started and most of the schools are already off, colleges are off. So people have already made plans to travel around. So there'll be less number of technical support people in India, and just to give you the perspective. So if you are stuck with something, if you have a virus attack or certain pages are not opening up the way they should, you need a technical support. And it's never basically you should never be ashamed to ask for help, is what I'm trying to tell you. You can always, if you're stuck anywhere, just openly go to these web hosting people, just type in there and they will help you out. And I've been stuck in multiple places and they've always helped me out in those instances. So always look for a 24/7 technical support. And my experience has been very good with Bluehost in recent years, 1-2 years, and with HostGator for the last 12 years or so now. Then what type of hardware they're using, that is also important. You can get that, what is the CPU, what number of CPUs they're giving you, whether that's good or not. You can make a judge on that. Then what is the user interface that they'll give you? Certain people are used to, now I've shown you 3 examples of user panels. One is this AWS, which I showed you, which gives you this sort of a user interface. Then the other one I showed you is the, this free kind of website, which don't allow you to code entirely HTML, but can allow you to edit whatever you want as text-based things and all, UI-based, that part. And this is another type of a UI experience. And then the third one, which is of HostGator, I've shown you. This is what is called as a cPanel. And inside cPanel, this is again a open source free service which was there. Now it's going to be turned into a paid service starting from this year. cPanel is going to be paid, but HostGator is giving you a cPanel. So it's a very user interface, user-friendly interface to add domains, subdomains, to create email accounts and manage email accounts, and the web pages that we have. So you have file manager, which allows you to manage the files. So so this is how basically an FTP is being used, kind of a thing. So it's like exploring into your Windows Explorer. It has the very same or similar experience completely. But this is what a cPanel is allowing you to do. And you'll see, to add a domain on AWS is a challenge, because you have to create EC2 account and things like CloudFront and multiple things to add just a single domain to it. So it's not that easy. So these are the number of zones that I'm using currently and how the servers are working for me. But if I have to add an instance, EC2 dashboard, this CloudFront. Okay, I don't have any CloudFront running right now, but if I have to do this, then I have to go to networking, and then let's say if I have to match any of the domains, I'll have to go inside and keep on doing them. And you can see, these are the name servers that AWS is providing. So CloudHost gives you multiple hosting options, and you can start doing by that. But this is another example of the user interface. So that also plays a very big important part in deciding what type of interface are you comfortable with. If you're not comfortable with something like what AWS is, AWS has very difficult to, sometimes even higher scale, because some part of the things like setting up HTTPS onto the server requires some basic knowledge about Linux or coding, and you have to do it through command to the server and then set it up. Then does it offer email? So not all the hosting providers provide you email hosting, but there can be differences in that. Then can it be flexible? Like I showed you in the case of AWS, it provides you a lot of flexibility. I can change it every month, or I can go for a higher package if I want to. Then the last one is, how much does it cost? Always keep cost factor in mind before you go ahead, because most of the time what happens is we overlook what the hosting cost is going to be. So just to give you an example, we have a website which when we started doing SEO on it and we started doing digital marketing, we got close to 1 million, 2 million traffic a month, which roughly comes out to 15,000 to 20,000 users coming every day, and higher than that. And when we shot above 8,000, the server started completely crashing. So we had to go for an elastic kind of server, which would provide us that ability to take them in. But that server costed us as much as 20,000 a month. So from as little as 100 rupees a month, the hosting can be also 20,000 a month as well, and can go up to lakh of rupees if you're going for an experience like how the Swiggies and Olas and all that, they work seamlessly, instantly. They are giving you the data and going across. So that's a server cost is always going to be higher. The number of users are going to be higher. So keep that in mind. So initially, always start with a low budget, low server, build your systems up, build your website up. Once it starts going for multiple users and higher users, then start increasing the server cost, server capabilities, and then the cost would increase also. And the flexible part, can it be flexible? So your website resources might change from, or the plan that you have, for example, like I showed you, Lal Bagh Saraja is very high number of traffic, comes in only in the month of September or close to the first week of October, and then it diminishes. So that is there. So it should be capable of doing that. Then we have one more, which is the look for a web host which allows you to scale up and down easily. So I can scale up and down even for 1 day or 2 day that I need an event for. Then changing host isn't always a good idea, because your website could have content loss, and that will always a risk. And there's always a risk of being hacked. So you should be looking for a flexible solution as much as possible. Can I ask everybody to be mute so that sound is clear? Yeah. And with that, we are at the end of this whole session in a way. But if you have any questions, you can ask me in the chat box. One second, let me see if there's any questions. Okay. We can now be open for any chat discussions or anything that you want to know apart from whatever I've shared with you guys.
Sure, sir. Girls, if you have any question, please type on chat box.
Sir, you can also ask questions if I've,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
yeah, missed out anything that could be that.
So just I'll check on
Okay, sure.
YouTube.
Okay.
So there's one question. Which is the main company in India who implement fiber optics in C?
Okay, so there are many companies that are there in India. One of them major that I know about is TCS was doing this since a long time. So even if you Google this very same question, you come to know there are many companies inside this. NEC is there, which is doing this. There's submarine networks, which basically does that also. So there's no main company as such, but initially we only government was only giving it to BSNL and BSNL had the monopoly in the initial days, and over a period of time only they were getting the direct lines, and then they would sell it to the other users as it went ahead. But in the early days of internet in India, we had Rolta service, we had SifiNet, we had uh, I think Hathway had just started around that time itself, and there were many services that were there around, but the main services were always coming from VSNL and BSNL. So VSNL would purchase the internet from abroad and then would serve it to the other people. So VSNL always had the best connectivity initially, but the people who lay fiber optics are different from the people who are giving you the internet connection. So there are two different things, you know.
Yes. Sir, what is the future of web hosting? What is going to be?
See, it's a ever-changing landscape. Today we have cloud computing, and the moment we are going to be introduced with 5G, there is also talk about 6G and 7G also coming into place, which is each and every device would be connected to internet. So a different type of hosting, a different types of server, a different way of thinking about it is required. But the basic concept of hosting will always remain the same. There is a server and there is a client, and anybody can be a client and server. To just to give you an example, I don't know whether you all have played Counter Strike or not, but there's always one person who becomes a server, and then other people join him, and they can all play together in one single room. So the concept remains that basic in the smallest level, but to a wider array, it could be a jacket or it could be a tie that has got a chip inside it, which is connected to internet all the time, and then it could tell or tell my body temperature or tell my heartbeat to the health professional or doctor. So anytime, so like today I have got this wristwatch which is continuously tracking my heart rate and the ECGs and things like that. So if it fails to do that, or if I have any problem, the doctor could be alerted, or it can alert me that I need to call up the doctor and things like that. So this is where it is right now, but it will become more seamless. The way payments are happening right now, we don't even need to take out our debit card and credit card today. Everything is happening through a QR code scan and fingerprint and a PIN number that you put into a Google Pay account and all. And yesterday, even WhatsApp Pay has started. So definitely, we are headed to a much more cashless and much more contactless kind of infrastructure when it comes to internet. But the moment we start to have facial recognition, AI coming into picture that understands who I am, where I am from, and the language that I understand also comes into picture. For example, I could be standing in front of a ticket booth, and it will understand that, let's say I'm standing in the ticket booth in Calcutta. So it would understand that I cannot speak the Bengali language. So it will start responding to me in Hindi and basically whatever language I understand. And I can do the conversation with that particular device using the internet. So everything will be more localized going ahead, but hosting will always be important. But the only surface part would change, like how we have cloud hosting. The next thing is blockchain coming into picture, how data is going to be transferred around, which is basically the very same concept of IP packets in the whole essence. Data can be acquired anytime, any place, anywhere. That way.
So there's one more question. How learning HTML can help being better in web hosting?
Okay, so HTML hasn't ever changed for the basics of HTML haven't changed. It just keeps on evolving every time and again. So HTML is the predominantly the front for programming of web pages, web designing, and everything. It's a core part of it, and it will keep on evolving. So maybe HTML6 would come out later, but till such time happens, HTML5 allows us to create things as well. I'll just show you one more example of how you can create in HTML 3D parts also. Something that I have created on my own server. So this is using HTML. I'll just show you the view page source. So all I'm doing is I'm loading a 3D file into it. Today, HTML is capable of doing, and we can create a game like PUBG or any 3D intensive games also within that interface. Let me just load through. It's looking for a different file. Let me just edit. So here I'm editing the HTML part of it. The server URL was a little bit wrong, so I've changed that. Now it will go into the right path, which is 3D, and you will see the object loading up. And see the object loading bar going up. So using just this much amount of HTML, JavaScript, and there's no CSS part of it, but there's just some CSS that I created for the background and other things. But you can create 3D objects into the website also. Can you see this? Is it visible? So I can zoom in, zoom out. This is all HTML. HTML is the possibilities are basically endless. If you go into it, you can create a video player, you can create a lot of things and load 3D files also. This is pure HTML. I can see some more questions are there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So there's one question. Students made website using WordPress.
Yeah.
Now it's giving 4.4, 404 error.
404 error. So this to look into why it's happening. So generally 404 error means page is not found. So we generally create, even if it's WordPress, it's capable of handling those 404 errors. Just to give you an example, if I don't type in this properly, or if on my domain, if I'm mistyping something and things like that, it would go to a 404 page, which is the error response. Now, I'll just show you the network part of it. Sorry. Network. So this page response went to the server, and you can see that the first response that it got was 404. Is it visible? Should I make the screen font? I think I got it. Okay. So you can see this entire website is built using WordPress, but it is capable of handling a 404 page. So you need to create a 404 .php in your theme file, or use a basic theme file first, which is 2019 or 2020, those themes, and try to see if that particular page or not found page is still happening through or not, or maybe it's some other thing. So 404 is not a bad thing to have, but the reason should be very clear, that whether it's happening because I installed it wrong or I've done something, the URL is wrong. So 404 only comes whenever there is an incorrect URL, or that particular page existed before and now it doesn't, that way. So that we need to check properly why it's happening. Then
Yeah, there's one more question, sir. Can we have backup web hosting like our main websites?
yes, so most of the whenever you're planning to purchase, you should look at what features they are providing, what all things do they provide. So most of them do provide backup hosting and basically backups which are there on it. So even GoDaddy also provides hosting, but my experience of hosting with them is not that good, and so I generally prefer to go for other like Bluehost and HostGator is what I'll suggest. And backups you can do it anytime. So let me go to the cPanel part of it. So you can see over here that I have an option to do a backup anytime, which is going to be in the last part. So yeah, here I can take backup anytime I want of any particular website, or only if I need a database that I need to do. So these are the different databases that are there on the server. I can do a backup of them. I can just click and download the entire SQL dump, or I can download any of the home directory or a particular directory also. I can download a full website backup also. But right now the backup size is not allowing me because this is a shared hosting that I'm doing. And I'm already over 10 GB amount of data on this particular one server.
So there's one more question.
If
you purchase a domain, but it did not renew within a renewed period, we lost the domain. If you want to buy again, how much time it does take? Or
okay, so what these hosting guys do is they play around with you a lot. So they give you all these offers initially that you can purchase them for very less cost and for maybe 200 rupees a month and all. But when you actually go to purchase them, they're purchasing, you will purchase it for 2,000 rupees, with the first year being only 200 rupees and things like that. Then once the domain expires, there is a grace period of 1 month. So for so let's say the domain expires in October, I'll have a grace period from, let's say, 1st October it expired till 31st October. I have a time period to renew it, but the cost of renewal will be a little higher. And post that 1 month has gone in, I can still repurchase the domain for the next 6 months. In any time in the next 6 months, I can repurchase the domain, but the cost is going to be higher now. I'll need to pay 4,000 rupees penalty to repurchase that domain. And the best idea is always that if you feel that, or you can lose that particular domain. So that's always a threat. So if you have any domain name with you, so you need to keep on renewing it over and over again whenever the renewal period is coming through. And to see how long a particular domain has been around, there's a service known as Who Is. So GoDaddy provides that service also. So let's say we do a Google for lalbaghsaraja.com. So to know when was this domain name first registered. So this domain name was first registered in 2000. So for the last 20 years, this domain name has been registered and keeps on renewing. So we keep on extending it as much as possible so that the expiry doesn't happen. Because once it gets expired, anybody else can acquire it. And whoever is, someone is unmute himself.
So there's one more question. Will learning HTML help the programming students? So learning HTML or XHTML or XML, which is better, sir, for having a good feature?
Okay. So they're all more or less the same. It doesn't take, it's not like rocket science and anything like that. All the tools are available to learn HTML, XML, and any of them. So one of the best websites that I always go for, or tell my students to also go for, is the W3 schools. So this W3 schools provides you HTML tutorial, it provides you XML tutorial, React.js, AngularJS. You can study any of these languages. And to be honest, the space and requirements are different whenever we are working. So for me, I have had to learn all the different languages that you can see over here, including working on Raspberry Pi, Node.js, ASP, PHP, SQL, Python, Java, C++. I've done those things in the college days, but today I'm doing machine learning, I'm doing blockchains, so it's a learning is always a process. And what is going to be effective in future is the basics are always going to stay around. HTML has been around for a good chunk of 30 years now. Like if we go in the history, when did HTML start? We will come to know that most of the things are the same that what they are since the start part of it. And HTML is being looked after by what is known as W3C. And it's very important to know this thing. It's known as a World Wide Web syndrome. And what they do is they look after how publishing has to happen on the internet. And they look after what. So the idea what W3C tries to do is to make sure that nobody owns the internet anytime. Internet is always free. Internet is always widely available to everybody in the best format. So when Flash was coming as a major player for video player, so all the videos used to only play best in the Flash, Adobe Flash. They came out with HTML5 to completely remove it. So any video could be loaded into the HTML itself, as it was part of the HTML. They keep on coming with these new lines which are there. Go over here and come to know. Yeah. So you can go and see what is working, what is not working. And from the future perspective, HTML, XML, all these languages are future proof. They'll be used in future, but to what extent and how much extent is always going to keep on changing. We have got the white hat junior and all these people, and I've seen what they're teaching, but that is not purely coding. But I'm sure when these 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-olds who are doing this today, when they learn it again when they are 16 years, they will be better implementers of it. Their skills levels will be different. It doesn't guarantee anything success, but yes, they'll at least be better understanding towards that with those knowledge. So future is always a path that we are looking forward to, but these areas are always safer bets. Web designing, web programming is always a safer bet to be in, because in Java, anything and everything could be programmed. So you have your set-top boxes, you have your DVD players, everything programmed in Java. but it's very difficult to find a job in Java because everything is already programmed in. So all Java programmers, they have over the period have transferred or basically learned themselves to Android, and they're all doing Android thing also. But Android is now moving towards Flutter and different languages are coming over there, like Kotlin also in Android. So spaces keep always changing. It's never bad. So don't learn or concentrate on learning languages. Learn or concentrate on learning what makes the language work. What is the syntax? Always pay more attention to syntax. So the basics will always be the same, which is going to be your variables that you can create in a programming language, the loops that you can make, the conditional statements that you can make, the functions that you can make, and how you pass the parameters. How do you pass data from one function to another function? These are the only basic things that you need to know very well. The rest of the things will keep on changing. The language will keep on changing, but you should be able to move ahead. It's like reading a Russian website today. Google Translator can help us, but you need to know English to understand what is being translated and given to you. So concentrate on one language properly, learn these 5 basic things that I told you about, and you'll be set for the life.
Thank you, sir. We like to end the session today. Thanks, sir, for giving us information from history of internet to web hosting. Students gain a lot from your experience. Thanks a lot. Thanks to Mary and Nitin for technical help. They're always there to help us. Thank you, guys. Thank you, girls, for participating. Thanks all. Please, Mary ma'am has sent the feedback form. Please fill the feedback form. You'll get the certificate. Thank you, girls. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Guys, please fill the feedback form.